Hello, everyone, and welcome to Women in Motorsport. I'm Cubby Lambert from the Podium Finish, filling in for Joe Samniego this week. With me is regular co-host Daniel Zuri from Racers, the girls behind the helmet. Then we also want to give a special shout out to our Patreon supporters, Colin, Mark, Deshelle, and Robin. Thank you so much for funding Grit Network and everything that you do to keep us on the air. And be sure to click the link to buy me a coffee in the video description below for our one-time donation. Like and subscribe to Grit Network here on YouTube and share our page with your family and friends. And to kick off today's show, we'll start off with one of the most historic and challenging races in the world, the 24 Hours of Nürburgring.
Hi, Kobe. Thank you for having me. As you said, it was quite a big weekend for motor racing last weekend. It was like motorsport Christmas, but with some of the most prestigious races in on the calendar year. One of them is certainly the 24 Hour of the Nürburgring at the Nordschleife, the world famous over 20 kilometers track. And we have 7 women on the track this year. We had also one of the most important projects for females in motorsport, which is the girls only team that last year won in the SP8 class, which is usually the GT4 class. Slightly altered the lineup for them. This year they had Kerry Schreiner, Celia Martin, Pippa Mann, and Fabian Wohlwend. Fabian was the new addition to the lineup. Obviously the W Series racer. They were also switching from the Audi platform to BMW. They were racing in a BMW M4 GT4. And they had quite a challenging first part of the year because before also they also doing the NLS Championship, which was previously known as VLN. And previously, prior to the first race of the season, they had a massive testing accident, so they had to rebuild the car. They had to miss another round, so they had a couple of troubles before the 24 hour of the Nürburgring, which is like the main event of the NLS season. But luckily for them, it was quite a smooth weekend. So finally, all the bad luck seems to have to went before the main event. And they had a pretty solid weekend, even though they had not much running time in qualifying and in the practice sessions because of a fuel pump issue. And this was particularly a problem for Pippa Mann because it was only her second race at the Nordschleife, and she had never lapped in the darkness. So during the race and the night stint, it was quite the first time for Pippa that she went around the Nordschleife in the night, because last year she only did daylight stints. But apart from that, they started from P4, had quite a smooth race, and finished. We're pretty much throughout all the race in P3. During the early hours of Sunday, they kind of managed to be up to P2. But then they were back to P3 at towards the end of the race. Solid results for them: a podium position in SP8T class, which was a very good result for Celia Martin, Kerry Schreiner, Pippa Mann, and Fabian Wohlwend. Interestingly, also an interesting stat for Fabian, it was her 100th race in her motorsport career. So quite a good way to celebrate her 100th race with a podium at the Nordschleife. But we also had some class victories in that same race, especially in the Cup X class, where Laura Kryhammer was racing in the KTM by Teichmann Racing, the number 161, and that was quite a crazy race in that class. They were starting from P2. And pretty early on, they had to stop for a clutch issue, which initially it seems it could have been also terminal for that crew. Luckily, the team had quite a good team effort for the mechanics to bring the car back on track, even though they lost 9 laps, which around the Nordschleife is quite something. They were back to P4 and with a lot of laps to recover. But with solid pace, they managed to be back to P3. And also, Laura had quite a difficult race because she wasn't feeling very well. She had a food poisoning. So definitely not the smoothest run for that team. But during the night, the leading two cars had troubles and retired, and so they won the race. They basically only had to do was to bring the car home, and they won the race in class. Also, Chantal Prince had a ASP6 class victory. They were the only car on in that class, but still, it's a massive challenge at the Nürburgring Nordschleife just to finish the race. So they had to finish the race, and they managed to do so, even though they had some exhaust troubles, but they managed to fix it, and they won the race in SP6. Also, Jasmine Preissig, who is quite an experienced driver in TCR categories. She was racing in the SP3T class in a Volkswagen Golf TCR by Max Cruiser Racing. They were starting from P2 in class, and then pretty much were all racing in contention for podium. While the fire extinguisher at one point went off, so that was quite a costly issue for them, but also the team managed to send the car back out. And when they were back into the lead, actually, at one point, they were crashed out by a faster car in another class. So more troubles for them. Car back into the pits, again out on track, and finished still second in which one was one of the most crowded classes in so definitely not easy to go back into a podium position. To sum up this race, you never have to give up in such a difficult race. We also saw this in the main category, which was quite action-packed with a lot of positions changes at the back, at the front. Sorry, but also as we mentioned, this was not the it was just one of the most important races last weekend, together with the Monaco Grand Prix and also the Indy 500. And one of the most important races in the NASCAR calendar, the Charlotte races. So back to you, Kobe, for what happened in the NASCAR environment last weekend.
Yes, and as you just mentioned, Daniel, the 24 Hours of Nürburgring is just another iconic race that took place on quite an iconic weekend of racing, along with the Monaco Grand Prix, the Indianapolis 500, and NASCAR's Coca-Cola 600. And this included the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series with Hailie Deegan, who was looking for another strong run after Texas Motor Speedway before a late contact with Todd Bodine. Lost her several positions. However, things didn't get off to a good start. Qualified 35th in a 35 truck field. Her season has been really hard. And unfortunately, the North Carolina Education Lottery was another tough race. Basically, the story of Hailie Deegan's season. And she ended up finishing a disappointing 27, 3 laps down, and she's 27th in the points. With only 6 more races until the playoffs, Hailie is in a must-win situation, and she has to get in the top 20 in points as well. It doesn't matter if she wins the Knoxville race on dirt coming up in several weeks' time. But if she's not in the top 20 in points, that potential win is not going to matter at all, and it's going to be a significant uphill battle for her to try to get into the top 20 in points. So right now, the odds are really working against her. She's at this point, it's honestly that she's very unlikely that she's going to make the playoffs, and her next race is going to be this weekend at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Meanwhile, the ARCA Menards series were also at Charlotte Motor Speedway, the General Tire 150 and 2 female races in the field. Amber Balcaen and Tony Breidinger last weekend. Amber got a top 10 finish, and Tony was 11th. Amber came home in 7th place to continue her streak of 2 top 10 finishes. She also got the award for the K&N Filter Hard Charger of the race. Both Amber and Tony are in the top 5 right now in the ARCA Menard Series Championship. Tony is in 4th and ahead of Amber by by a total of 5 points. Yeah, Amber's trying to call some more points because right now it's a 3-horse race for the ARCA Menard Series Championship. Roger Carruth, Nick Sanchez, and Daniel Dye. And for Tony Breidinger this season, she's going to be compared to some of her teammates who are going to be running alongside her at Venturini Motorsports. At Charlotte Motor Speedway at Parker Chase and Corey Haim who are competing. And something that was really interesting during during the race broadcast, Tony's team owner Billy Venturini, he was asked he was asked some things about the Venturini Motorsports Toyotas, and he talked about Parker Chase. He talked about Corey Haim, But the thing that really caught me off guard, he didn't say anything about Tony Breidinger. So Tony's really gonna have to work very hard moving forward because based on what Billy Venturini was saying, it doesn't seem like he has a lot of confidence in her at the moment, and Tony's just gonna have to use that as motivation to continue moving forward.
And also, we had another interesting championship to report last weekend. It was the GB4 Championship. It's a new championship. It's first inaugural season for it. It stands for Great Britain 4, and it is quite an interesting new series, because it's a cost-effective alternative to Formula 4. We know that for the young drivers that are moving up the ladders of single-seaters, Formula 4 is a really crucial step. And we have many national championships in Formula 4 in Italy, in Germany, in Britain. In Great Britain this year, they launched this new GB4, which uses the old Formula 4 cars, because the Tatus launched the new chassis this year, so new homologations. And there were quite a lot of old chassis, which is still very competitive, of course. And so it was kind of an interesting idea to bring all these chassis together for this new championship. And we have 1/3 of the entry list of the grid of the inaugural season of female drivers, interestingly, because we have the former W Series driver Megan Gilks. She's Canadian. She raced in 2019 in W Series, and then went back to Canada to race in Formula Ford. Last year, also raced in Formula 4 in the UK. And then she's making the step up to Formula 4 machinery, basically. We also have a Scottish driver, Logan Hanna. She has raced in Formula 4 before in the UAE Championship in the Winter Series, but never actually a full campaign in Europe. So that was also, it's a rookie year also for Logan. And then her teammate, Chloe Grant. So there's a team, Richard Brunton Racing, which is all female. So Logan Hannan and Chloe Grant. And then we have also Jessica Edgar. Jessica Edgar is really interesting upcoming driver. She really made some headlines in karting, in international karting. So definitely a driver to watch. And so we have these 4 drivers really making some good progress in the opening rounds of GB4. Megan Gilks won the inaugural weekend in Snetterton. Then we had Jessica Edgar scoring a second place finish in the second round. Then Logan Hanna scoring a second place finish also in race 3 of Silverstone last time out. And then so at Donington Park, they were really carrying some good momentum. And it was a domination by female drivers at Donington, which took the pole position, wins, 2 wins, and 2 fastest laps on Sunday. For Megan Gilks especially, was really important weekend, because she started from the front row on Saturday from race 1. Even though that race didn't really go to plan for Megan, she quite didn't have the pace to keep the position and score another podium for her. But she really bounced back on Sunday, where she scored pole position. That was her first pole position in the series. And even though she had quite a difficult start, she lost the first place, she was really able to fight back and to claim the position back. And she won with quite some margin. Great race for Megan Gilks. So second victory in that series for Megan. And race 3 also was another female domination, with Jessica Edgar taking the lead, the early lead at the start. But then at the first corner, Chloe Grant was back into the lead, and at the end of the first lap, Logan Hanna claimed the first position. So it was for a minute, it was a female 1, 2, 3 in race 3, while Megan Gilks was starting from the back because of a reverse grid. So it was quite an interesting race, an action-packed with a lot of position changes, and Logan Hanna really managed to keep the first place throughout the whole race. Kind of extended also her gap, had a quite safe gap from the pursuers, and she won her first race in GB4. So really was an historic weekend for GB4. Megan Gilks also recovered to P6 from last on the grid. It was quite a more challenging race 3 for Chloe Grant, who was leading for a moment, but then she had a penalty for track limits, and also Jessica Edgar. She was in the top 10, but quite dropped back towards the end. But overall, was really remarkable weekend for them, and we will follow her progression throughout the season, which is really interesting. Because 1/3 of the great female is quite a good achievement, and also they're starting to be a lot competitive. So yeah, I think overall, offering the GB4 Championship is offering good. It's a good alternative for female drivers because it's offering a good track time at an affordable cost. So, and a highly competitive Formula 4 cars. So we will try to keep following this series.
Yeah, and in today's day and age, cost is what really prevents a lot of these drivers from competing. Since the series is able to provide a cost at a reasonable budget for them to compete, get a good track time experience. I think it's best for everyone involved. So yeah, for sure, we'll certainly be keeping up with all of the women racing in this particular championship. And this upcoming weekend is full of racing once again, including at Portland International Raceway. Bridget Burgess is going to be competing in the ARCA Menards Series West race, where Ben Snyder and Joe Samega will be covering all the action on site this weekend at PR. And as we mentioned, Haley Deegan's going to be at Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway with the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, trying to turn her dismal season around. And we also have the NHRA New England Nationals with Brittany Force and Erica Enders, both looking to keep their respective points lead. So, Daniel, with all the racing that's happening on this weekend after last weekend's very action packed, what races are you going to be following this weekend?
As I mentioned, it's going to be quite a busy weekend for us. I'll be personally in Misano for the second round of the Italian Formula 4 Championship, and also the Italian GT Championship, where Formula W Series race Vicky Perea is having a second race ever in GT cars. So we'll be to Misano to follow their races. Vicky is also sharing the car with another female driver, Francesca Linossi, two-time champion in that championship. So it's going to be quite an interesting weekend. Also, Maya Veog, who yesterday had her 18th birthday, she was racing in Italian Formula 4. She's also the first ever Ferrari Driver Academy female driver. So always interesting to follow her progress. Victoria Blocchina also racing in Italian Formula 4, second ever weekend for her in single seaters. But also it's going to be a big weekend at circuit the Paul Ricard in Le Castellet in the south of France, where GT World Challenge Europe will have the 1,000 kilometers of Paul Ricard with Iron Dames racing there. So Sarah Bovey, it's actually going to be her second race at the 1,000 kilometer of Paul Ricard. But this time she will share the car with her regular Iron Dames teammates, so Rahel Fry and Michel Gatting. Just one weekend to the big race at Le Mans, so it's going to be also some preparation work for them. But also at Le Castellet, it's going to be a former regional European Championship by Alpine with Hamda Al-Kubaisi racing there for Prema. We know it's her rookie season in Formula 3 machinery, so it's all learning-oriented season for Hamda, who had the opportunity to race last weekend in Monaco, and she qualified for the race because it was quite, it was interesting because it's massive grade, the Formula Regional European Championship, almost 40 cars, and Monaco is not homologated for such a big number of cars, so they had to qualify, and Hamda did manage to qualify for Monaco, and she told us it was quite a remarkable memory for her to race on such an historic racetrack. But also, as we mentioned, there will be ARCA Menards Series West with Bridget Burgess, and also a GT4 championship with Gabriela Gilkova racing in Le Castellet. A bunch of other interesting races that we will be definitely reporting on next week.
Yes, for sure. And personally, I'm going to be following two specific races related to today's show. We already mentioned her, Haley Deegan, trying to turn her season around. And looking at the stats, she only has one career top 10 finish in her Truck Series career. And guess where that happened at? Where we're going this weekend at Gateway. She finished seventh last year, which is her best career Truck Series race to date. If I'm Haley Deegan looking at last year's race, I come into this race with a lot of confidence that I can get another top 10 finish, that I can get a great result, that I can prove that I belong in the NASCAR Cameron World Truck Series in her sophomore season. I guess we can say she's going through a quote unquote sophomore slump because things haven't been going really well for her. And as we've mentioned on previous programs here at Grid Network, it's really harder for Haley Deegan when you have like a Ryan Preece who's been running the NASCAR Cup Series the last couple of years, get in the same equipment that she's in and go out there and compete for wins, while Haley's just struggling just to finish these races without an issue, which is going to put a lot of pressure on her. I think if she goes out there and gets a great finish at Gateway, then she's going to be able to start proving to people that yes, I belong here. Yes, I'm worth the investment that Ford Performance put in me, and I'm going to continue progressing up the NASCAR ladder system. And the second race I'm going to be following is the NTT IndyCar Series race on the streets of Bell. I got Tatiana Calderon, who's going to be returning to the seat after J.R. Hildebrand was in that car at Indianapolis. Yeah, and the last time around, Tatiana raced at the GMR Grand Prix on the Amex road course in wet conditions. A very impressive performance. Had one of her best IndyCar races to date, and I'm sure she's going to return to the seat this weekend at Belle Isle, ready to continue the positive momentum that she's been building in her rookie season of IndyCar competition. And with that said, that's it for today's episode of Women in Motorsports. Please like and subscribe to the Grit Network here on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And we also encourage you to take 5 minutes after our show and join our Patreon page with Colin, Mark, DeShell, and Robin. Once again, thank you very much for investing in Grid Network. And we encourage you to invest in Grid Network too to keep us on the air well into the future. Do you want to buy me a coffee? Click the link in the video description below and you can buy a drink for your favorite on-air talent here at Grid Network. I also want to give a big shout out to Edward Hunter from formerly Zone, Amber, and Zachary for buying us a coffee. We truly greatly appreciate it. Any amount will help us continue growing a motorsports media outlet. Also visit public.com, also known as the stock market social media home. The link below and referral code gives you $5 to invest. Public.com allows you to connect with your friends. You can make new friends and use tools to learn how to properly invest in the stock market. That referral code, forgot to mention, is GridNet. And also want to remind you to follow our special coverage of the NASCAR Xfinity Series racing this weekend at Portland International Raceway. Joe Samniego and Ben Snyder will be on site at the track covering Xfinity and ARCA Menards Series West events. I'm sure next Thursday, Joe will be reporting on Bridget Burgess and how she ran in the ARCA Menards West race. And on Saturday, we're going to be back on the air at noon Eastern for Grit Live pre-race, and Sunday, Grit Live wrap-up 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at Gateway. For Daniel Zeri from Racers, the girls behind the helmet, I'm Kobe Lambert from the Podium Finish. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform, public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GridNet for your free $5 to invest and start investing and networking on public.com.